Have you seen the price of eggs lately? It's insane. If you're like me, you've noticed these rising costs of the normal things that you buy every day. So I wanted to share with you 10 tips that I personally have used to help save a little bit more money. Okay, let's jump right into tip number 1, which is to focus on building up a $1,000 savings account before you start tackling all your debt. If you're somebody who's in debt, you want to, of course, pay your minimum payments. That's important. But beyond that, if you have extra that you've been putting towards debt, I actually recommend saving up to $1,000. That way you have kind of that small amount of emergency fund. So if something else comes up, you hopefully don't have to go further into debt. Once you reach that $1,000, then you can put any extra money that you have to tackle your debt. Number 2, you want to take a look at all of your recurring payments that you have monthly that are pretty much set in stone. So we're talking about your rent costs, maybe your mortgage costs, maybe insurance, maybe you have a set car payment, those types of things that, yeah, they might change year over year, but typically from a monthly basis, they're about the same. You want to add up all of those expenses to find out exactly how much needs to be allocated right off the bat, and then see what you'll have left over. Next, you want to take a look at the categories that you spend on every single month, but that amount might vary. So these are things like your groceries, maybe how much it costs to fill up your gas tank, things that you know for sure are going to be expenses that you are paying for every month, getting an average so you have an idea how much you also need to allocate each month towards those categories. And then the third area you're going to look at for establishing your budget is those optional payments that you're going to make. Now, I am not somebody who's going to sit here and say that you should never spend money on fun things. I think you need to enjoy your life, and I just think that that's not realistic. But you do want to establish a budget that's going to challenge you. But it's also realistic and fair where you can still enjoy your lifestyle. Which leads me into step number 3, which is the hardest, I think, is actually transitioning into maintaining your budget and finding ways to stick with it. I recommend using a budgeting app. Personally, we use, again, the Dave Ramsey app that he has, but I know a lot of people also have success using envelopes. So you would put each category into an envelope and that's it. So, if you have $100 to spend in this category that month, that's it. And that helps you kind of visualize what you have so you're not going over, versus a credit card where it's kind of easy. You can kind of just let a little bit more money go each month. Tip number 4 is to set up an automatic savings plan. Usually this looks like setting one up with your employer if you have direct deposit, something where you set it up where a certain amount of money comes out of your paycheck before you ever get paid. So you never see that money. That's a great way to make sure that you're automatically saving without even having to think about it. Most people set this up and probably don't even think about how much is going to that savings account every month. So even if it's as low as, $10 out of every paycheck, over time that can really add up without really any extra effort on your part. My next tip sounds obvious, but it's very important. Start small. There's nothing like the new year, new me sort of craze that hits where people want to take on the world and tackle these crazy challenges and resolutions for themselves. But the best way to really make sure that you're actually effective is to be improving yourself just a fraction of a bit, even if it's just 1% every day. The next tip that I have is to establish a 24-hour rule. If you're like me and you like to do some online shopping, I know I'm guilty of that, you can benefit from telling yourself that you can't buy that item for 24 hours. What this does is really causes you to kind of get over the impulse side. You're not telling yourself completely no just yet. You're kind of holding off. What then happens is a lot of times you'll go back into your account the next day. You may not even like it as much, or maybe you found something even better that was more worth the money that you'd rather put your money towards. There's just something psychologically that happens when you hold off and make sure that you're actually wanting that item instead of just doing it on an impulse. Then if time passes and you're still kind of thinking about it, you're still wanting it, then maybe you can at least feel a little bit more confident that this is going to be something worthwhile and you're actually going to use, not something you're going to purchase and then kind of regret a month later. This next tip I have is especially useful for anybody who is getting paid an hourly rate, because what I recommend doing is actually measuring your purchase by hours spent working versus the actual money. It does something different to our brain when we have to think about, okay, I have to work 8 hours to pay for this item, as opposed to the monetary value. We kind of start to disassociate with the actual money a lot of times. But when you're thinking about the hours worked, especially if you're not a fan of your job or, you dread going, whatever, it helps if you have that item on a scale of, you know, how much time it's going to take you to work to pay that off. So it's similar to the tip before, which is that it allows you to kind of maybe rein in some of the impulse buys and actually think about something that's going to be worthwhile and you won't regret. This next tip is a little controversial, and I'm going to say it with a little bit of a disclaimer. This is definitely not one to do right out of the gate. You want to do it once you've already been working on some of the other tips and have gained a little bit of self-control. But if you're someone like me who sometimes shops when you're bored, or you're kind of looking for that pleasure it gives your brain when you make a purchase and you have something exciting or fun that's coming, when you actually put items in your cart, either if it's online or if you actually go to the store and you try on clothes and you are like shopping as if you're gonna buy something, but you don't. So you actually put it back or remove it from your cart or whatever. It actually sometimes will give you that same satisfaction that it would have had you bought something. Now, if you're not like me and you don't have this problem, I would say just skip over this, but I'm talking to those who are like me, who have, you know, that those impulse buys sometimes is something that they struggle with. I have found that this has worked. Sometimes just the fun of looking at clothes and trying things on will sort of satisfy that boredom that I have. It's similar to the last couple tips where, you know, if you do end up purchasing one of those items, you can hopefully be confident that it is something worthwhile because you kind of put it to the test. Another tip that I have is dedicating one day a week to a no spending day. It's very similar to if you are wanting to improve your fitness, for example. It's a lot easier to imagine working out one day a week and kind of like setting with a fitness class or something that you have on the calendar one day a week. That's sort of like your goal that you know, okay, I can accomplish that one thing. It works the same way when it comes to spending money. If you know that you have one day where you have to, you know, stick to these rules, that feels much easier to overcome than just indefinitely working on improving and saving money. When you focus on one day, you'll also just naturally learn new recipes, new activities you can do from home, maybe places in town that are outside, you know, parks or places you can go that are free. So naturally, it's gonna help you over time to spend less money, even on the other days, because you're gonna kind of have other ideas and things ready to go when you're looking to save a little more money. And my 10th and final tip is to become a couponer and a bargain shopper. If you know that there are items that you have to buy anyway, why not take the extra few minutes that it can take online to find a coupon or to find out what stores are having sales on that item in order to save a little bit of money? And what it will do is help also to curb that impulse buying that you might do, because you will actually be waiting for when it's going to be more affordable. And it allows you to sort of be wiser with your purchase, and then you know that it was actually worthwhile. That's it. That's all I have for some tips to start saving a little bit more money today. If there's something that you do that works, please share it in the comments. I am always looking for more ideas, and I'm sure everyone else is. We could all use that these days. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you will continue to see videos just like this one and won't miss out on any of them as they get posted. And I will see you next time.